Hey everybody, and welcome for the fourth stream of the UD6. I'm today with Mythical, as always. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I got a good night's sleep, which is not easy when it starts heating up. We're getting into towards the summer now, and but I'm good, and I'm ready to see some guys play some games.
Yeah, we have skipped last week tournament because we were not available, sadly. But to catch up, we have two games today. We are going to do Spectra Ball, which is fairly unknown and very interesting speedrun now that it has a community, and Cuphead, which is a very well-known speedrun and a lot of people have seen it around. It has been featured in on Speed Gaming during a tourney a couple of months ago. It was very interesting to follow along. So we have done a stream on Thursday, and we got like 2 C+ on the commentary for Cuphead, and that was very interesting. The game is fantastic to watch and see. Races are very entertaining, and on Spectra Ball, it's another story because the game was barely run at all, and like it's fairly unusual as a speedrun anyway. Like it's the glitch that the game actually works. Did you play through the game, Mythical?
No, I did not get a chance. We started doing a super fun, cool Sega event that maybe you guys heard me commentating for yesterday. It's going to be on after this. So along a bunch of players, I had to suddenly learn a lot of Genesis runs in a short amount of time. So I didn't get a chance to actually play. I did get my controller configured in Cuphead. I got that far.
Nice.
I had to actually, it wouldn't, two of my SNES controller buttons, it wouldn't register, so I had to like get Joy to Key to be like V and X. And not important. The important part is, no, it's sad I didn't get Cuphead or Spectre Ball. Those will be things to once we're done with Crazy Weekend.
Yeah,
But
I guess.
I
But
am still very excited to see the players race today because, like you said, Cuphead seems like a really tense race. I anticipate things are going to be pretty close, and what to expect. There's a pretty big gap on the leaderboard between some of the players, and are they tricks that people will go for in races? I don't know. So it's a bit of a wild card for me.
from what I've gathered on Thursday, the runners go for the craziest tricks on Spectra Ball. Once you know a skip, you want to do it, but yeah, it's quite punitive sometimes, so we can expect some times around like 10-11 minutes, which is very good. When we launched the season, when you announced the game, the world record was at like 10:03, something like that, like and the world record is now at 8:06, 8 minutes and 6 seconds, which is crazy fast. And we could see that time go down like by 45 seconds according to the runners. So it's going to be very interesting. Obviously, one of the main goals today, one of the main focus for the runners is to get the best race possible time, because that will show on their player card. So that's one first thing they want to focus on. The second thing is we are going to feature 2 games today, so the point system is going to shine today, because when we were doing only 1 game, it was obviously like the fastest on both, like just some at their times, and it was done. Spectra Ball is twice as short as Cuphead, so the points go twice as fast. It's going to be very interesting to see how punitive one game is compared to the other, how good you have to be at both games to win that tourney today.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, advantage to perhaps. I mean, Meta and Devil Tifa are way ahead on the Spectra Ball leaderboard, but on Cuphead it's quite even. So I might give the advantage to either. Although I don't really see Menta in the top 10 even on Cuphead. So I guess once again I would pick Devil Tifa to be my favorite today. But Spectra Ball seems like the kind of game where you miss a trick once, you miss a trick twice, and now it's in your head a little bit, and maybe that can get out of control. So maybe the person with the solid Cuphead, like a Mel West or a Sil Shady, perhaps, is going to be the person who comes out on top. But also, yeah, like you said, to switch between the two games because they are nothing like each other.
Yeah, obviously you gotta get your muscle memory back and running as soon as possible. Like, we don't give that much time for the runners to practice between the races. It's just like going back to back, just waiting for for the last runners to finish the game, and we'll launch the second race right after it. So it's going to be very intense for some runners. We are going to see those games, Spectrable first, then Cuphead and Spectrable last. We have a ton of runners today, 33 runners competing. That's just for fun and just to be able to have some practice to get their feet wet racing those two games. So it's going to be very interesting to see how well the runners do compared to their PB, and how good they are at handling like backup strats, and seeing like Cuphead has almost no backup strat. Either you go for the risky stuff like the take damage to save time and just play risky, or you don't and you are going to lose a lot of time. So it's going to be interesting. Spectrable is a bit more forgiving, but as you said, once you start failing some tricks, you can like lose a lot of time. So it's going to be very interesting to see what's going on between those two games and see how it goes in races. For those who just join us and maybe see the UD for the first time, UD is a competition. You have to learn 10 games, 10 speedrun. We announce the games one per week, so that we are just in the beginning phase. We announced 5 games so far: Shovel Knight, A Story About My Uncle, Castlevania Eye of Sorrow, Cuphead, and Spectrable. We are going to announce the 6th game today at the end of this stream, and we are going to keep going, announcing 1 game per week until the start of July. And in July, August, and September, we are going to see some new runners and the first tournaments, the first competitive tournaments, where we play the 10 games back to back and see who gains with the fastest. So it's going to be very intense starting in July. We are just in the beginning phase. The runners are just getting warmed up, and we are setting up all those little fun tournaments so we get to know the runners and get to know the games ourselves.
We're taking our first look here at Spectrable. It's going to show off actually most of the game. It is pretty short and sweet little game. Though certainly your first time through, I'm guessing you are not going to be able to do what you're seeing here in the video. Lots of large skips over intended parts of the geometry, with mostly just clever use of double. That's kind of par for the course whenever you're speedrunning this kind of game. Spectrable firmly in the ball game genre that mystery tournament and blind speedrunners love so much. Yeah, they put physics in the game, and they have the levels designed so that the ball works with the physics and creates some really interesting challenges, and then speedrunners figure out how to make the ball bounce in a way that they didn't really plan for. And all their beautiful work over, and it's glorious. So I'm looking forward to seeing. Yeah, also the clip in the movie are already outdated because this is a speedrun kind of still in its infancy. We sicked 100+ UD runners on this game all of a sudden, and through sheer force of will and dedication, a number of large skips and discoveries have found, including I think some new-ish glitches that required some on-field judge calls on how we're gonna rule one way or the other on some of that stuff.
Yeah, so the category is glitchless. There is a trick, like a well-known trick, where you use the pause menu and you just keep getting speed, like opposing and imposing, and you just like fly through the level. So that is the main glitch, the main well-known glitch that is forbidden in this category. But we are still like the speedrun is still in its infancy. Like, we are finding new stuff, and some stuff is useless, so we don't ban it out yet, but we may find some uses that we are going to roll against. So it's like, so far everything except that pose glitch is allowed, but we are going to see crazy tricks, and this game is kind of glitchy itself, so banning glitch in a glitchy game is kind of weird. Like, we cannot rule out certain bounces, like some stuff is going to happen in this game. At some point the world record may happen just because like the runner got a crazy good bounce that made something possible that should not be possible, and it's going to be very interesting to see how that goes. So yeah, the runners are getting ready. We are going to see Double Tifa, Psychos, Zoff, Berumundo as our main streamers, and Explode Your Ear, Zigwigwi and Ayash and Lebref as backup streams. As soon as someone has ended, we are going to show more runners. It's going to be very interesting to see how it goes for those guys.
We're gonna switch to our 4-player view in just a moment, but we get a look at as many people in their openings as we can. We saw Zigwigwi got hung up a little bit on ledges. That's kind of where the stall optimizations come from in this game, is preserving as much of your momentum and taking lines as cleanly as possible without colliding with any of the geometry. But the big time saves are going to be nailing all of these skips. We just saw a quick reset from Psychos there. Devil Diva successfully getting onto this ledge, but Psychos is moving quickly here up this edge, has already caught up to Devil Tifa. Nice little double jump to get around this ledge. But now you're seeing this part is mostly as the developers perhaps intended. So there's a bit of this, but mostly you're going to be seeing a lot of those big island jumps that you saw earlier.
Yeah, the level design is done, so you don't question what's going to happen to you next. You just go from one platform to the other. But once you've understood exactly... Oh no, Devil Tifa overshot the end. It has to restart here. That's actually quite a big time loss, and Psychos take the lead. Devil Tifa was first on that level, but yeah, Zoff finishes just before Devil Tifa, and Berumundo right after him, and we enter the second level. And yeah, here we are going just to cut right through everything using the double jump, and getting to the second half of the level right away. And here there's a crazy big pyramid you have to climb, and just like understanding where you're supposed to go next, we are going to see the runners get to the end directly. So it's, you know, just a lesson in level design and what to do and what not to do when you design a game. Like, if it's easy enough to get right to the end, why would you not? And yeah, it's already done for Psychos. Very good level.
Yeah, very good. These guys are making it this part here where they jump up the parts of the pyramid. They're making that look a lot easier than it is. You actually need to, you know, bounce in just such a way, hit the wall in just such a way, and time your double jump correctly to get the height to just go straight up there. But not a problem for any of the players. Already done with that level. Moving on to Volcanic Raider, I think this is.
Yeah, the level we have like those weird platform floating, and just at the beginning we get to the switch that opens the door for the second half of the level, and getting a boost on the slope, and you are directly to the end. Very, very short level. So far those go very, very quickly, and this is the first level where, surprisingly enough, there is no huge shortcut, so we are going to see the runners go through the majority of the level normally, and it's going to cost a lot of time if the runners do fall, because they are just avoiding parts where the checkpoints are, sadly. So it is probably the most punitive level in that speedrun.
Yeah, we just saw Psychos fall off right as you said, you know, how punishing it would be. So it looks like he's skipping the elevator platform entirely, which is cool. But I don't think I've seen any player successfully, maybe Baramont, no, get underneath this keep out sign while keeping their speed. You've got boost going into it, so if you can keep that boost speed, you can absolutely fly down that straightaway.
Yeah, sadly that wouldn't... I don't know what it is, barrier, just is sometimes weird and just give you a full stop, and sometimes will allow you to pass freely. It's pretty weird, and it can be frustrating. I guess that's something the runners have to figure out just how it works exactly. But Zoff gets to the next part of the next level here, where there are clever maneuvers on how to go from platform to platform. He's going to use a restart from checkpoint here just to reset the cycles to be able to go freely at that point. And yeah, you want to use your bounces and just barely use your air control to go through that wall here.
And all right, we're triggering the boosts and then getting like a double boost.
Yeah, the boost mechanic is weird. If you jump onto an arrow, you are going to get more boost, and if you go to that boost and then go again, you are going to get a better boost. So the runners just go back and forth to have enough momentum to clear the entire few jumps afterward. And here, once again, trying to use his air control, but thankfully he got like barely the checkpoint right before he fell, so that was not too bad.
Yeah, I was a little more worried than I should have been there. It was only a couple seconds to reset from the checkpoint.
Yeah, I was not sure he got the checkpoint, but he did, so that was good.
I wonder if he knew that he got the checkpoint, or if it was a pleasant surprise.
Hard to tell. Using the boost, once again here, you just cut through the next set of switches. And yeah, Zoff missing the arrow, sadly. You have to get the final. All the time, the end is on a like single island floating, and you have to get the correct boost to jump. And Zoff, yeah, okay, Zoff had a weird load time here, but is on the next level already. Followed very closely by Tifa. And getting to the mountain, the towering mountain level, where it's a long level with a lot of skips, and you have to keep your momentum all the way through the entire level to be able to do the jumps. Here's Zoff sadly going too fast, having to backtrack a little bit, try again. This is where...
Same thing for Devil Tifa in the top right corner. Both players struggling with this now.
Yeah, this is where the speedrun gets a bit weird and more harder than you thought it would be, because you have to have perfect control to get through the couple of jumps there where the runners are failing. Devil Tifa getting stuck here. Sadly, you cannot climb. He has to get a little backup here with that bounce. Zoff making it. Devil Tifa using his double jump. The double jump does not has a long cooldown to it, so you have to know exactly when you can double jump. It's something you have to get used to. And Zoff getting to the first place here and climbing those couple of jumps very nicely.
Meanwhile, Barramondo's been doing very well in this level. Has made great efforts to catch up to both Devil Tifa and Zoff. And Psychos, who has been trailing ever since some troubles earlier on, is also not too far behind and has a really good time in this game. So we're kind of running out of time into our game, but Psychos is quite good. This game could make a charge here at the end. We'll see.
Yeah, Psychos has worked a lot on routing and finding new tricks on that game, so we practiced a couple of rounds on each level and trying to compare them, which is something harder than it looks, because like you have, it's not like, okay, you do that room and those add ups to that set seconds. It's all about like momentum and how well you can keep it, and comparing two different routes can be very tricky, so we may see like big changes in the future tournaments compared to what we're seeing today, just because the route may be completely outdated, especially on this level.
Yeah, with such open terrain, with you know, it's not just quite platform to platform the way it is in some other. Oh, Zoff quite able.
Oh, and that's a long way behind. Sadly, that's a long time, and he has to wait for the TNT bar to reappear there. Devil Tifa passes him right there and uses that little ledge to jump here. Very nice. Getting up there is not too easy, and a couple of jumps later, he is going to be right at the end. Oh, that is one risky strat. If he doesn't get to that... Okay, that's way enough speed. Okay. I was scared for a second. No problem at all. But yeah, as you can see, like almost 3 minutes on that level alone, when the couple of first levels were barely 20 to 30 seconds.
Zof overshot it, had too much speed. It's pretty hard to get a read on just how fast you're going, and that will determine kind of where you need to aim on this jump. It does manage to barely stick the landing second time around. Armando hits the goal. Zof is also good.
Okay, there is a major skip here where the Ultifa jumped, but sadly missed it. Keeping your momentum here is a bit random. The bounces and the way the physics works is unclear. There is like the angle of the camera affects your inputs, so you have to angle correctly if you want to get correct speed at some points. It's pretty weird, and that skip is the major one. You want, yeah, escape that looping is not too easy, and you want to shot exactly the antenna. Oh, the Voltifa overshooting it sadly has to go back and do this jump again. This is that jump we are going to see a lot of runs die there, because it's quite tough, and the speed you get from that boost arrow depends on luck, I guess. The Voltifast failing again, shaking his camera, frustration, I guess.
Yeah, Zof now right there with Voltifa on the same elevator. This is probably the hardest single skip. Like, look at what Zof had a ton of speed, but no, not a good angle. Exited the loop too early and came in really low. Double Tifa going to go ahead and take this partial skip here most of the way up the structure. There is a sort of a backup here off this crate, and then you get it to move on from here. This really big jump and a well-timed double jump.
Yeah, very nice, and this is the final jump. He doesn't want to overshot it or undershot it. There is a checkpoint, thankfully, right here, so that's pretty good. And he will be able to clear that maybe on the second try, but we are already at 11 minutes. The world record has been done like 3 minutes ago already.
Yeah, this is one of those games where matching the record, I mean, obviously matching a record in a race for any speedrunner, but in this one in particular, with how finicky these tricks are and how they are, I don't think we'll ever see that, 8-minute run in a race, unless a ton of things get found. Of course, I will absolutely eat my words in that case. But I think it's going to take a long time before players are able to do all of the crazy stuff with enough consistency to pull it off in a race.
Yeah, the lots of game in this UD have that if you die, you are going to lose a lot of time and lose all your efforts in just one moment. Like if you die in Cuphead, we are going to see right after it, and we are going to lose even more time than Spectrable. Spectrable, the issue is that you have to do a long section all over again. We are skipping a lot of checkpoints, and it can be quite tough to recover from just a couple of mistakes, and that's why we are going to see those 11-12 minutes run in all the time, I feel. But that's like we go at 20 points per minute in Spectrable, so you can lose a lot of time, and you can even lose your entire tournaments, like from 10 games in a row, if you cannot beat Spectrable fast enough. That's true for all the games, but Spectrable especially is going to be very frustrating for some runners, I feel.
We'll see how the players sort of develop. Certainly they've had enough time to get a feel for it, and so their opinions will maybe change too much from here. But UD's long. There's a lot of time left throughout the season, and maybe as things get found, players find a groove or something, and maybe their opinions start to flip. But for now, here they are, rolling around.
Yeah, I really hope we are going to find some consistency in some skips. Once again, it's pretty early in the UD and in Spectrable speedrunning in general. And yeah, there's everything left to be done, so we are going to see some backups and some easier strat for some skips, and maybe like some visual cues for some jumps and stuff, like how to get your speed right. Sadly, we don't have a speedometer, like you don't know exactly how fast you're going all the time, and that's pretty annoying because that would help a lot for some jumps. Just to know exactly if you have to slow down or keep going. And sometimes I know some runs are going to die just because you don't know exactly where you are, and it's pretty tough to have some cues about what's going on in that game.
Yeah, even just visual cues can be pretty hard in a game where you have control over the camera. So, you might be looking at things from more of a top-down than someone else might, or actually, there's something going on with the camera in this boost section that the Gwigwi just went through. I was going through some of the tutorial videos, and one of them recommended using the camera to help preserve the boost here through these turns.
Yeah,
Or
so
is that just like personal
no,
preference?
what happens is that the control depends on your camera angle. So the control are calibrated. So if you just look through a flat angle, forward and backward just move you at the fastest speed. But if you angle your camera right vertically, you are not going to get the same movement because forward becomes downward for the ball perspective, and it's pretty weird. It's not 100% like no speed when you look upward and or downward, but it's pretty weird. And yeah, definitely there are some weird stuff happening, and no one knows exactly what are the values and how much you slow down or you go or you gain speed depending on your camera angle. And maybe that's something that is going to be interesting to explore with cheat engine or something like that, because it's finicky. The game is weird, the bounces are finicky, but the runners usually tend to get a good grasp on it. It's pretty rewarding, and it is very easy to beat in under 15 minutes.
Yeah, that was our cutoff. We are done all of a sudden
Yeah, that
with
was very
Spectra
brutal.
Ball.
So the cutoff for
There was so many people still going, right?
Yeah.
Like, just nope, not enough. Sorry.
So Spectral Ball was our first game, and we get like all of a sudden look on Cuphead, our second game. This is a very well-known game. I feel like it came out like about a year ago, and so many speedruns and tourneys and stuff have happened around Cuphead.
I've never seen the glass of water emoji put to better use than Barramondo in the chat just now. Yeah, this game is it's pretty special. They've gone for this. I don't even know what era of animation this is, like maybe 50s or something, but nothing has achieved this style in a game the way that the Cuphead guys have managed. So that doesn't have much to do with the speedrun, but just speaking to the impact this game had on when it came out, that ripples to the speedrun community. Good games attract players, and then a lot of players makes for a good speedrun scene, and things get developed and found. So Cuphead has had a pretty nice speedrun scene for a while, for about a year, like you said. They went through a couple changes with figuring out the rules. What patch do we play on? New
Yeah.
games get patched, unfortunately. Glitches get patched, and impacts the speedrun in all kinds of ways. But I think things have probably started to settle a little bit now, and our players were able to jump into this category. Simple current patch.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any percent regular, just get to the end. It's simple. So all the last phases of the bosses have been cut out, and current patch means there's like no crazy glitch, no spamming, and no destroying your controller while playing. So it's a very relaxed and easy speedrun. It's very easy to get into Cuphead. Like, it's more like an introduction to the actual speedrun rather than the entire feel for what the game actually has to offer. But it's very good in like a 10 games in a row setup, because you need some breather, you need some room, And yeah, Cuphead is going to do very nicely for that. We saw like briefly the standings for the tournament. Quick is actually in first place with a very good Spectrable. Barramundo also well placed. Devil Tifa is in sixth place. I get his name because he is the one who won like the previous 3 tournaments or something like that, so it's a good reference. So very big shout out to Quick, Barramundo, Salian the Mouse, Alien and the Mask getting 1 to 5th place, and obviously we have a lot of runners. But getting back into the leaderboard, into the top places, where when you have like already 30 points different with the first couple of runners, is going to be very tough. But yeah, best of luck to everyone, and the Cuphead race is going to start very shortly.
I saw a couple names there doing really well. Spectrehead that and Spectrehead, nice. Spectreball. That you know, names I didn't really see for the other games. So this is one of those things where you know, different games speak to different players' strengths, and all those characteristics are tested here in UD with games of varying genres and styles. So totally not surprised to see a weird ball physics game become the strength of some of the runners that we haven't seen much on stream or at the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, actually, that's no surprise to me either. Like, we had even like some names ready for the players that are very good at some very weird like balance game. Like someone good at Kururin. I would not have been surprised to be good at Spectrable also, because like it's 2 very different games, but just getting into such a weird game makes me feel like, yeah, you are going to be able to get into Spectrable pretty easily. And the Cuphead is no different. Like it's not your standard platformer. It's not your standard shooter. It's something special, and we are going to see what's going to happen on Cuphead right now. Actually,
we've got our Quick, Barramundo, Celian, and Astrum. I think we're our top 4.
Yep.
From Spectreball. So these are the 4 we're gonna roll with for now. Tutorial section, not too much going on.
So what's
we're
weird
gonna go
to
through
me?
it faster than that one video that went roll.
Yeah. What's weird is that the tutorial is not mandatory. The only reason the players are going through the tutorial is to get that 1 coin the game gives you at the end of the tutorial there. So you can buy a secondary weapon, and the idea is that the secondary weapon is good enough for you to make up like the 20 seconds the tutorial cost you. So that's pretty cool. The Mask sadly selected the wrong save and is already at the middle of the game. Oops. I hope, yeah, it just reset. That's not a big deal. And Barramundo and Salian here getting the 3 extra coins to buy their first secondary weapon. They are going to get either the spread shot or the roundabout. The spread shot is the fastest and the roundabout is the safest, which may be a good choice when you you do races like that.
Yeah, I guess we'll see spread for Salian. And I missed it on some of the other guys, but we'll see. Yeah, definitely red for Astrum and Barramundo. And spread as well for Quick. So everyone's going all out here. First fight, thankfully not too much, as long as you just, you know, get close with your... know when these attacks are going to come out. Pretty simple. Second form with the carrot, your spread will kind of take care of them, as long as you're not way up high. So there's a bit of, you want to be careful, you know, you're jumping, how you're jumping, to make sure that your spread is taking out those carrots. And Astrum, Barramundo.
Gapupa died, I guess, if he's right at the start of the fight. That's a long time, big time difference. Mind you that we are timing in-game time, so what you see may differ from the actual result. The runners are asked to display their in-game timer on the bottom right corner, so we can compare easily. But yeah, everybody gets into Ruby and Croaks, the second fight. Getting into the hitbox of the bosses to get get all those shots to connect. This spread shot is only worth it if all 5 shots do connect, so you have to get up close and personal, as we see Astrom do right now. And
He's
using
really going for it.
Using
just a little bit more damage to finish this off.
Yeah, he has no HP. Like, get a good look at the bottom left corner all the time. If it's blinking red, 1 hit and they're dead. But very good fight from Astrom, which get the first place from what we can see. The 4 runners. Cylinder Mars is at 1 HP, but did not use his super into the boss hitbox, so uses the spread super widely there, but sadly it's not worth it if all the 8 shots don't connect, so you would be better off using the regular shot super, which is like something you have to keep in mind all the time in Cuphead. If something goes wrong, you have to know exactly what's the backup if you want to gain all those seconds you are losing. It's not much, like it's about, I don't know, 5-10 seconds per boss, but there are like 13 boss fights, so you can easily lose 2 minutes from like little mistakes here and there.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that is may become secondary to, you know, how do I beat this game? But the players have had two weeks now. So, it is definitely the top players are going to be familiar with what to do when things go wrong, as long as they don't just reset. And maybe they were trying for some really good Ps on the leaderboard, but playing out those situations so that you're ready for what happens in a race is definitely a good idea, in my opinion, because there's basically like a kind of a route to these bosses, like on Ribby and Croaks. If you are able to keep all your hit points, you can use them all to do those supers inside their hips and get those last the extra damage out of the spread super, and that's enough to finish off the boss before you get finished off. But if you're off, that's not an option anymore. You can't do that anymore, or you're not going to have enough health. You're going to die. So
yeah,
you need to know what the backup is, and it seems like I don't know how many players have got there to be optimal with their backups as they are with their initial strats.
Usually UD barely gives enough time to work on very good backups, so a lot of runners are just all in, learning one strat very well, either albeit like the best strat possible or just like one slightly slower, but it's barely not enough time to be very consistent at 2 strats per difficult moment in a run, so it can be very tricky, and obviously some runners are better than the other at creating like new stuff. But yeah, it's a very good fight by Astrom there on Ilga Berg. The first very tough fights of that speedrun. Even though it's in simple, some fights are actually very tricky because you want to use your HP as resource to go fast, and sometimes you are going to just take hits you're not supposed to. Bermundo played safe here and kept actually 2 HP to be sure. Looks like Cylinder Mars is doing the same thing.
There's also a pretty tricky timed missile shot that you get the opportunity to do, I think twice here, between phases, where your missile kind of follows the boss left to right across the screen and racks up a bunch of damage. Salient didn't get it there, but I definitely saw Barramundo and Astrom land at least one of those, so that will make a big difference in that fight.
Yeah, probably my favorite looking strat in the entire game. Like seeing that missile hit like 7 times in a row is very satisfying, and it's like it's pretty easy to do, fairly accessible. And Astrom dying there, jumping to get those spread shot to hit, and sadly that's just too much. There's like RNG in that game, and some hits are going to come from places you don't expect them, so that was maybe bad luck, but when you have only 1 HP, you have to expect those things to kind of happen. Bermundo dodging very nicely there the hit, and Astrom like being about like a minute behind right now just because of that one death.
Pretty quick, also dying pretty late into the boss fight with the plane here. I have not learned the boss's name.
I have my notes
just
up
yet.
right down the side, like it's Hilgaberg. Yeah, that crazy first plane fight, it's pretty tough. And Cogni Carnation here dying on Aelstrom, Cylinder Mars being at the half of the fight, and Burramondo getting to the second aisle. So once you've beaten all the bosses on one world, one aisle, you get to the second one, and you have like a new set of bosses. I'm not sure how the difficulty curve was set, because I don't feel like the bosses to be that much harder on the second aisle compared to the first one. So it's pretty weird, except for Beppy the Clown, probably the hardest boss in the entire game to me.
Yeah, the way he rocks back and forth here, and really sharply jerks forwards and backwards, makes it really hard to put the spread shot to good use because you need to be so close. Barramondo's going for these spread supers here. Getting these all connect right on Beppy's chin here in this second phase is pretty tight. He missed one, but he's got the other two.
This is scary. He has like no HP, and those like balloon dogs' heads are super scary. It's pretty hard to know exactly what's going to happen. Though that phase is the worst. Like you have those two horses, the green one and the yellow one, and both patterns are pretty terrible to me. It's pretty hard to hit all your shots with the spread shot, and you have to know exactly how to react to all the situation possible. And the smallest mistake here will send you all the way back to the beginning. But yeah, Burramondo, very well done, killing Beppy, first place. Aelstrom, right behind him, died on the Carnation, so lost all the time there, but still doing very nice, sadly whiffing on that super.
Yeah, the players trying to get as many spread shots in as they can while he's down, and try to land a regular pea shooter super on the way up. But switching the weapon, getting into position, and correctly aiming upwards before he leaves the screen, actually pretty tricky. A couple players having some trouble with that strat. Salient not quite getting high enough to get the full of the spread super, but is moving on into that final phase as Mondo is the first one into the Genie.
Yeah, Jimmy the Great, probably the easiest boss to me. It's hard to understand what's going on. It's pretty easy to get all those shots in. You have to remember on that phase to destroy all the faces that appear. Sometimes there are two. You just have some extra damage you can do. But yeah, nothing much going on there. You just have to dodge and try to land as many hits as possible. But that's a good breather between two tough fights, being Beppy the Clown and the Baroness von Bombom that arrived right after this.
Yeah, I definitely... There's, you don't always get the same 3 candies coming out of the gate, right? Or am I making that up? I guess we can talk about that later on.
3 different candies and one last phase. Very long fights.
Fight. It is definitely a lot simpler, I think, than the Hilgeberg. This Genie fight does go on a while here, so it is punishing if you do die.
Yeah, but
Barramondo going for a parry there.
You don't use your HP to deal more damage. You just have to fighting regularly, so you have a lot of HP. Just one mistake is going to cost you 1 of your 3 HP, so it's going to be alright. Just have to remember to aim your supers correctly. You have like a super when you have your 5 cards loaded, and you morph into like a huge warhead and you just explode on the boss fight head, as you can see here. I don't know exactly how much HP everything does, and that's probably one big regret I have with the Cuphead, is that you don't have like a boss health bar. You don't know exactly how efficient are your shots. You don't even know if you actually deal damage or not, except for that small like blinking. And it's, yeah, it's sometimes annoying, I feel. Burramondo starting off with 2 retries here. He prefers to have at least the first phase without taking a hit, I guess.
Oh, so I think it was the order that they come out in is different, is what I was worried about. But yeah, these this fight is pretty tough. It's dealing with the candies. They each have their own problems, mostly because they follow you, so you're constantly having to move away and then shoot at where you were. So it means that you're constantly away from the enemy. You're not shooting, so you're just straight up losing time. The way they move, they force you to lose time. It's a game of minimizing your time loss. And that can be pretty frustrating, and it means that it's almost always possible, just a little faster in this fight.
Yeah, like you can see on Bermondo's screen how many hits he missed earlier. That was one very bad super, but he got like he took a hit. I don't know if that was intentional or not. Taking a second hit here, trying to get as many supers on the Baroness as he can, using one super to clear the wave here. It should be done very soon, but as Strom caught back up on that fight, and is going to go to what's his name again? Wally Wobbles, the third flying fight, where you fight against that clock that's just flying and with a living bird inside. That's not safe. Don't do that.
Yeah, it's almost like he was a little bird who was in there and didn't leave and grew up to be a big bird. Yeah. Probably should have left the nest.
Yeah, that's. I understand why he's so angry at you. I love his the character design. It's very cool boss. The boss fight is not too hard, but you have to be careful with a couple of attacks, and landing those bullet bill shots can be quite tricky from time to time. So you have to time them correctly.
Eastern's saving up for the full 5-card super here. You can watch them charge up their supers next to the health meter in the bottom left. When you get all 5, you get that missile attack on the spinal form. It's not too hard, I feel, to stay really close to this boss inside and make sure all your shots are hitting. But if you take too long to finish, it will start hitting you. So Eastern takes 1 hit, has the health to take that hit, and it scores the knockout there.
Bermondo, no HP left. I'm a bit worried for him for the last phase, because those spiky eggs can be tricky to dodge. The game gives you that get smaller button, which is very useful, but now he's greedy. Get that pink shot to charge his super, and sadly dies. And Stallion de Mars getting the 2nd place on that race, while Aelstrom gets to the Grim Matchstick, the dragon. I feel like it's not going to be the favorite boss of a lot of runners, because it can be tricky because of those clouds. You have to go from cloud to cloud to get the hits in, and yeah, sometimes it doesn't go too well.
Yeah, any level where there's just no floor, generally pretty intimidating here. And it's also a situation where a lot of the times dodging these attacks, you're once again not going to be aiming your shots at the dragon. You are going to be losing time. And then in the 2nd phase, I mean, if you've got the health and the supers, it's not a big problem. But with only 1 health left, Aelstrom may have to play this pretty safe here.
The knockback.
2 shots. The knockback from the supers actually pushed him just off the cloud. It's the lead here, but the lead has shrunk.
Yeah, on the overall standing on our tournament, Aelstrom is in 12th place with 157 on the first Spectrable run. He has a lot of catch-up to do, because Bermondo is at 190 and Kerpwick is at 191, so he should hurry up, because yeah, Stallion de Mars, Bermondo and Kerpwick are catching up and getting to the Grim Matchstick as well.
And it's not just them. There are other people who did fairly well in Spectrable, not as well as these 4, but have very solid times in Cuphead. So you got to know that off screen they're probably going to be doing pretty well at this game, and you need to keep earning as many points as you can throughout Cuphead, so that you can put yourself in a position to win. I mean, it is a tournament for fun, but it is still a tournament all the same. I find winning to more fun than not winning personally. So that's what I would be aiming to do here.
Yeah, and I'm not like joining any of those tournaments for obvious reason, but if I was, I would be super worried on some games where after putting a week of practice it was going super poorly. I would be like, okay, I have to practice back this game back at some time, but when do I do that? The UD is not waiting for anyone, so and the first competitive tournament is actually going to happen like 2 weeks after the announce of the 10th game. So you have to be able to keep track with all of those games, and it's going to be very interesting starting on the 14th of July to see how well those little tourneys help the runners to get into like how to race and how to play those games when you cannot reset.
Yeah, I think it really does make a difference. Well, not a lot of clouds there for Barramundo. Actually had to read the situation and double back and take the long way around. I liked that heads-up play there. But yeah, it can be a huge difference. Not being used to competing in this format can be a way that things can really get away from you. So I hardly recommend anyone who's looking to strongly compete in the UD6 to come out for these fun tournaments, even if they don't directly impact your overall standings. Once the season really gets going later on, these sorts of experiences will count for a lot.
Third island just started for Aistrom with the bee queen, Rumor Onibi. She's not too bad in simple. You can get very close to her, and her attacks are not too bad. So yeah, just get close, get all your spread shots to connect, and oh no, Cylinder Mars getting that evil triangle on is right on his hitbox, and he did lose all his HP on the first phase. And yeah, died to that. That's unfortunate.
We got Kerpweek quite a ways back here, not having the greatest cuphead, dealing with the bird. Barramundo is Salient in the Queen Bee fight, and Aistrom has moved on to stage play, I think it is.
Yeah, so stage play, yeah. That 3-act play where you just go through that very weird fight with that dude on the back, which is very distracting to me on that first phase. And she does those Dalsim kicks from Street Fighter, so it's pretty weird fight. Like I don't know how intended that was. That second phase is the worst to me. With all those projectiles coming at you, and you have to dodge those mechanical mouse and stuff. It's super weird. The players do keep their supers for this last phase, where in a couple of seconds it's going to vanish. So yeah, very very nicely done from Aistrom. Very good fight.
Actually had the health there to just tank this final phase. Seen what really happened in that second phase beyond the meteor and the wave. Everyone I've ever seen has had the health and supers to finish off that form. Something I look forward to finding out when I play it for myself. But yeah, we get to see more of this dive kick here. I think put Sally stage play in dive kick, please. Iron Galaxy, if you're listening.
I haven't played Dive Kick since it came out. It's a very, very good fighting game if you're into those. Aistrom getting to that final boss of that category. That train is very, very nice and gentle in simple. You don't have the bricks that fall up the ceiling and move your cart for you, and you don't have the final phase. So it's quite easy, and it's a good way to end that run. A little aspect of RNG here. The skull can appear left or right, and you can clean it in 2 cycles. Oh, Aistrom taking a hit here. He has to be careful now. That's his 2 chances gone already.
He is still going really aggressive here with the spread supers right up in its face.
Oh, careful with that. No,
No.
wrong move. He had a very good good first half of that last phase. Dying here actually cost him a lot because Salindamos is catching up again. Bermondo and load screen is right behind them also, so it's going to be very close. As you can see though, the loadings are very significantly different from one runner to the other. Airstrom is actually like 30 seconds ahead of Bermondo in his timer, so, well, ahead or behind depending on the perspective you take. But yeah, it takes, it's actually very significant, and that's why we do go by in-game time rather than real time, obviously.
Yep, you don't need a super ball and computer to compete at a high level in UD6. Just needs to run the game. Okay, Aestrom has a lot more health this time and is totally waiting out the lightning attack. Was obviously not happy about that death earlier, and was whiffing a little bit on those spread supers, but uses the parry to get enough height to land those shots and finish off the boss. Kind of like that finish.
Runners are finishing already. We have Asahaka, Toru, Zov, Jant, PPKO, Skunkov, Sarek already done. With Cuphead, we are going to see some new rankings after that race. Like it's going to be very different, and on the second race of Cuphead coming right after this, we are going to show the 4 best runners currently in the standings. So it's going to be interesting to see some new runners and see if they gain all their mark on Cuphead or Spectral. Is going to be very interesting to see how well those 2 games play together. And once again, like, being good at Cuphead does not make you good at Spectral. Those are 2 very different games.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing Capri Quick was #1 on the leaderboard in Spectra Ball, and is all the way back at this dragon fight. Already died once here, has had a number of deaths so far. Definitely struggling a little bit here with Cuphead. And if this is, you know, maybe a little moralizing, or if this is a warm-up and Capri Quick is able to second Cuphead race and start to salvage some of these lost points. That timer is ticking, and boy, what is the cutoff for Cuphead here?
It's 29 minutes in-game time, so it's pretty nice actually. It's a gentle cutoff, so it's going to be like 34 minutes real time. We are going to wait for all the runners to be able to beat the game. We see that Bermondo finished the game in 22 minutes and 59 seconds, so that's about like 2-minute difference with the real time. So Capri Quick apparently has a lot of loadings. Like, we wait a lot on that hourglass spinning screen, so I don't know what his time is going to be. It may be better than what appears to be.
Got some pretty interesting things happening to No Good Names stream here, which makes it, with the fluid animations of Cuphead being reversed like a DJ mixing on a turntable, is creating a really interesting to watch effect, though it's a little hard to tell how progress is going. Looks like the second phase is down. We've got Soma on the bottom right corner, who is working on the Queen Bee, and Lebref here is not quite done with the second island here.
Yeah, just getting to aisle 3. I'm very hyped to see Soma on getting really close and personal with those games during the UD6, because he was a runner well, he is a very, very talented runner on Castlevania Eye of Sorrow, the second game we announced for UD6, and he decided to go all in and learn all the games, so that's very good for him because he has that one extra game he already knew. But like, I'm very happy to see him learn all those games. But once again, being good at Eye of Sorrow does not make you good at any of those other 9 games. So he has to learn Cuphead, Spectrable, Shovel Knight, and the other 6 game we are going to announce today. I'm very excited for it because I like learning new games, and it's going to be interesting to see how well it affects some players, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be good motivation for some.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember which is the 6th game. I'm pretty sure I remember correct what it is, but I guess that it will be perhaps maybe a little bit of surprise for me. But yeah, that is how the UD6 and I guess maybe previous seasons, but no, it was all you didn't do the games one by one.
Now, we used to announce all the 10 games at the same time, which was very good for some runners because they could learn the games how in the order they wanted, but it was harder to set up tournaments. So yeah, we chose a different path this season, and it works well for a lot of runners which enjoy playing together, learning, discovering, and playing together on some new games because it forces them kinda to play together and learn at the same time, which is good for community building, and that's something we focus a lot on. So it's very good for the UD overall. But some runners are worried still that they are going to lack some time on the later games, or maybe they want to learn games in a specific order, but it should not matter too much at the end because once again this season is very long. It's just starting. The first competitive tourney is going to happen in July, where the first 2 places for the grand finals are going to be played. There are going to be like 3 more opportunities to gain places to that grand final, but it's going to be to be intense for some runners, and at the time going, it's going to be more and more tense for some runners because the pool of the place is going to shrink tournament after tournament. So we're going to see. Sully's stage play going pretty well for Quick, but yeah, he lost a lot of time in the early game, and he's a long time now behind Bermondo and the other runners we've seen completing the game earlier. So yeah, I'm worried for his rank on the leaderboard right now.
Yeah, it's not gonna be number 1. I think we know that, but how far down he will end up, and also, you know, how many more points can he pick up, perhaps again in the second Spectre Ball race, and can he maybe staunch the bleeding a little bit in the second Cuphead race. You can take a bad beat here and bounce back. That's one of the things I like about the format here. But your performance in each race does matter, and this is gonna really hurt Capri here.
Yeah, he is on the last boss. We are at 31 minutes. The cutoff is soon, but it's once again 29 minutes in game time. So some runners have very longer loads. So we are going to wait just a little bit more to be sure that everybody has the time to finish Cuphead. Quick on the final phase. Chooses to use his regular super rather than his spreadshot super, which I understand because he has only 1 HP and 1 incorrect movement and he would die. Careful with that lightning attack coming from the left side. Playing very carefully here.
Switched over to the right side very early, and actually was kind of dealing damage evenly to both sides, so finished off in short succession, and just needs to run over to the Dice Palace where the goal officially ends. The Dice Palace. I'm on Gunstar Heroes. I don't know what this is at the end here.
It is the, I don't know, casino? Inkwell Hell?
Inkwell Casino. Okay.
Gold Casino. So for those joining us wondering what the hell is going on in the UD, this is only the reveal, like the beginning phase of the UD. We are announcing one game per week, and we are doing like one fun tournament per week on the Saturdays. We are having races on Speed Gaming on the Sunday and the Thursday, but those are just for community building and getting used to race those games, like play the games in condition. And we are going to have the dice place, thanks Clifford TBRD, for the last place in the run, the dice place. But yeah, we are going to have competitive tournaments on July, August, and September. Those are going to be three tournaments of 3 turns each, playing all the games back to back, and we are going to see more of those very competitive play you are maybe used to on Speed Gaming, but this is just like the first phase. We are just playing Cuphead and Spectrable, and we are going back at Cuphead right after showing how well the runners did on the first 2 races.
Yeah, I'm really bored actually, because a lot of all the people we had on stream were the top finishers for Spectrable, right? So all the people who were playing Cuphead who maybe did really well were maybe not on the team, so could see a totally different looking leaderboard when we cut to it. And certainly we're going to see a change in that number 1 spot.
Yeah, definitely. We are going to show on stream the top 4, and I wonder how many of them we are going to see again. So here we are, Ataka doing very well on Cuphead and did fairly well on Spectrable, so getting the first place with 356 points. Toru getting the second place, Toru 89, very good on that 6th season of the UD, he is top 10 overall. Berumondo, we saw him just earlier finish Cuphead, he got only 160 points, but that's enough to get barely to the 3rd spot with 350 points, because Cylinder Mars that we saw finish right faster than Berumondo is at 349, so that is very very close. Right after that we have Zoff, Alien, Devil Tifa and Istrom in 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th place, and obviously we have a lot of runners that submitted a lot of times, and yeah, it's actually way closer between all those runners than I expected, to be honest.
Yeah, I think we picked a really good 2 games to pair together here. Very few people have a similar score in one game as the other. There's usually about a 20 to 30 point difference. We've got maybe Zven and Astrom have kind of done equally well at the 2 games here, but everyone else really seems to favor one or the other, and it creates this really back and forth dynamic.
Yeah, so what is going maybe to happen is that those runners that are better at Cuphead than Spectrable are going to take the lead after the second race of Cuphead. So maybe we are going to see Zoff and Jant and PPKO go back up on the leaderboard, and then just to fall behind because of maybe a lesser Spectrable, but maybe that just got a bad beat on Spectrable on the first turn, and they are going to be keeping that lead after the last game. I don't know. It's going to be very interesting, and once again, that's what I prefer during the UD, is to see those dynamics played through the 10 games in a row and seeing like what the runner prefers. Like I can tell you already, Berumondo is probably likes better Spectrable, or maybe just had better luck, but that's going to be interesting to see on the second race of Cuphead.
Yeah, I might really liked also the bottom of the leaderboard, where people were absolutely killing it on one of the games with 180, 190 point scores. 200 is kind of the people get past it, but it's kind of the ceiling for for a lot of people. And you know, to get so close in a game means that you're really there on that game, and then just not even get under the cutoff for the other game. Just monstrous near 200 point score in one, and then a big 0 in the other. Unfortunately, you know, if we were doing 2 different tournaments for these games, we might have saw, you know, some people way up on top in one and way up on top on the other. But they get paired together today, and the UD6 eventually all 10 will be paired together, and you gotta be able to compete in all 10 if you wanna stay on top.
Yeah, it's what I like. It's what's funny. It's you. Like, having a world record on one game is not enough. You have to be good and consistent at 10 games in a row, not having like a week or a month to practice. It's what's done in the Big 20. It's what's going to happen on the Sega Genesis Collection tournament happening right after this on Speed Gaming. And yeah, I wonder how well it will go later on the season. But yeah, for today we are back on Cuphead, and we have Asaka, Tori, Berramondo, and Stallion de Mars, our top 4 for the current tournament, and we are going to see how well they do. Do you think the runners are going to do better or worse on the second pass on Cuphead?
I think, based off of what we saw in a couple other games, I think it was Aria of Sorrow, where almost across the board everyone did better on the second race. I think that's generally been a trend, so that's where I'm going to go. Obviously, there's, you know, you just came off Spectre Ball, so you're really switching gears, whereas here you're already in the Cuphead groove, and I think that makes a big difference. I don't think, maybe some people get kind of burned out. If this was like a much longer event, then I might say that could be the case and they might not play as well. But just 2 here back to back, I'm pretty sure everyone's going to be doing better than they did in the previous race.
Yeah, that's more or less what happened on Thursday. We did 2 Cuphead back to back, and second time was just better overall, except for 1 or 2 maybe like panic accidents on some buses. Toru gets first to the route back. So once again, the first buses are fairly easy. You are not going to lose or gain much time. You just have to be very careful not to die and just get into the game, get your you know, fingers warmed up. But once again, when you've done like Spectral and Cuphead right before this, should not be a problem. And being careful not to die is what matters the most.
As players take several hits here, just to keep up pressure and finish off the boss, 1 HP. Some risks are calculated. Certainly, this first fight is pretty straightforward enough that I think even for newer players, they're able to adopt the scarier, the riskier strategy here. Salian, not so much, is going to go with some distance Pea-Shooter supers and is going to finish off the boss with some health to spare.
Stallion de Mars did very well on both Spectral and Cuphead. He got like 187 on Spectral, 162 on Cuphead. Got a couple of deaths on Cuphead, unfortunately, and if he doesn't die, he's going to be very well placed. But securing that top 4 is going to be very hard because there's only a 4-point difference with Stuff. He is at 345 when Stallion de Mars is at 349. So 3 points is what? 12 seconds, 9 seconds on Spectral and 18 seconds on Cuphead. So just like one minor mistake, and that's going to that's what you're going to lose. So yeah, you gotta be careful on at every single step you take. Be very it's very scary. I see Stallion de Mars having at 1 HP, only super here. But yeah, he keeps using his spread shot super here, and that's a mistake because he doesn't deal as much damage as he would do with the regular weapon.
Yeah, it might be one of those things where, you know, the fan's pushing you back, so you need to keep tapping the D-pad, or so maybe your weapon switch button is on like a left-hand trigger or something, and you kind of just don't want to even think about switching weapons before the super and then switching back to the spread while all that stuff. So is maybe just eating the damage loss for a sort of relief on the mental side of things, or maybe just didn't do their homework on on damage values. I don't know.
No shaming in playing safe in Cuphead, like losing about 10 seconds, not getting your supers perfect is way better than dying trying to get your correct weapon. Yeah, that extra damage can be very, very hard, as you said. Like, you just have to constantly be pressing button in Cuphead, and sometimes one extra press is maybe too much. So, but very, very good start for Asahaka and Toru here. Very, very close race as the start. Hilgaberg, and once again, this is probably the first run killer for a lot of people.
Yeah, we can see that both players have pretty different PCs though, with the load times. I think Asahaka is actually about 10 more seconds ahead than it appears on stream. So, well, I mean, I guess it's 15 looking at the timers, but yeah, there's remember that this is an in-game time. Not real time. We'll be showing the race in real time, obviously, because we cannot stop time during loading screen. So, you know, just trying to keep that in mind. We'll take a look at the leaderboard after the runs are all in and see exactly how well everyone did. But cutting out those load times absolutely makes things more fair for everyone.
Yeah, obviously, they have to have like the most accurate timer, so everybody is. But yeah, look at that perfect, like frame perfect double kill on the top screen. Asahaka and Toru very, very close to each other. Berramondo and Cylinder Mars very close also. Just taking a quick look at their HP to see what kind of start they're all going for. Berramondo keeps using only one of his HP on that fight. You want to use two if you want to go faster. But once again, very tough fight. It's easy just to miss one single bullet on screen, just to fly into it, and you don't want to do that. So playing it safe is 100% the correct idea if you're not like super sure you're going to make it.
It's a tough fight to optimize, especially with the missile shots. But I think it's also pretty hard just to the hitbox kind of top to bottom. Isn't very big on this boss, so making sure that your bullets are all connecting while you're keeping a safe enough distance, meaning you need to lead your shots a certain degree and the boss is always moving. So, you know, every shot that misses is damage you're missing out on. So that's a small way to lose time here throughout that fight. I mean, it's generally the deaths that are going to be the big major differences here in Cuphead races, but certainly I think those small mistakes will add up. So that's something that players are going to be focusing on. We got the nation already down for Toru, Salient just entering the fight, Berramon, Asahaka as well, done with this fight and moving on. Very close between the players on the top and Berramondo as well.
Berramondo getting to that second aisle. Asahaka and Toru starting almost at the same time. The Beppy the Clown fight once again. Very scary fight. The fastest strat here is to get exactly like Toru and Asahaka both did, getting on the left side. But sometimes, yeah, the Beppy the Clown going back and forth will hit you with the back of his cart, and yeah. In two swoops, you get the death animation, the second phase starts. And here you want to hit all your spread shot supers, but you have to time your jump exactly and try not to get hit by those balloons. Yeah, very, very close once again between Toru and Asahaka.
Toru took one hit in that phase, was getting really aggressive, with the super placements, and so has 1 less HP for this final phase, where I think you're most likely to get hit, perhaps dodging some of these shots. You can play it really safe, and then make it not so likely to get hit at all, but it's going to take so long if you're not getting up there with the spread shot. So Asahaka pulls ahead here. Toru, I think, because of that missing HP, was forced to play things a little safer, and you can see losing time here, getting extra cycles, does get the boss down, but has dropped back.
We are going to see that in-game time. Like Asahaka did 1 minute and 4 seconds, and Toru did lose 5 seconds in the fight. Once again, you don't lose much per fight, but it just adds up. Like, there are certain bosses, and you are going to, if you were to play safe everywhere, you are going to lose about 2 minutes, maybe 3, just playing it safe, trying not to die. First phase of Jimmy the Great is random. You have like 3 patterns possible. Both Asahaka and Toru did get the same.
At least the genie's got a big hitbox to shoot at, so very unlikely that any shots are going to miss on the first phase.
Yeah, I just have to focus on dodging and maybe using those pink bullets to charge your supers, so you can deal that much damage. Second phase, once again, just hit all the Genie's heads, and you are going to be fine. This phase, the third phase, is maybe the most scary, because it's pretty tough to dodge everything and keep shooting at that. I don't know what that is. I don't know. I
don't think anyone really knows. Well, it's shooting at like planets, and it's kind of coming out of the cosmos, so I think it's just supposed to be a generic alien. Also ghosts, though. This coffin is a portal to some place, man.
It's a Stargate. Yeah, it goes well. Once again, pretty easy fight overall. Maybe not to optimize, because you want all your shots to connect all the time. But yeah, just to play naturally. And we are going to see the timer for all those players. Asahaka getting 122, Toru getting 127. Actually lost 5 seconds to that fight. And Vermonda waiting for that iframes to stop, so his super actually explodes in the face of that puppet.
I think Toru was playing it pretty safe. He had a full 5 cards of supers at the end of the fight. If he was able to shit on that a little earlier, I think we would have saw him sort of maintain parity with Asahaka through that fight. But for now, both of them are into, I think it's Baroness von Bonbon.
Yeah.
Lovely name. Rolls off the tongue.
Bonbon is the French word for candy.
I know.
For those who don't know.
I think we kind of have that word in English, actually, as a borrowed word. Yeah, bonbons. It's not like, bonbon. It's bonbon.
Excellent.
But
French.
Yeah, we do know what it is. It's candy, and so we get this lovely candy-themed boss fight here. I can't believe they went with candy corn. I feel like that is barely candy at all. Probably could have found a much better candy than that. But it's dead now for most of the players. That's good.
Okay, so I continue hit there. Careful with that last phase. Yeah, dodging out of the platform and getting the knockout. I fear he's going to lose a little bit of time on that fight, but yeah, doing very well. Toru did play safe also, and is going to lose even more time. And Vermonda getting to that third phase, getting one hit there and trying. Oh my god, I was scared for a second there. Dodging, clutch dodge here.
Yeah, when all 3 projectiles are together, it becomes very clear. He thought that the boss was going to be dead. I think he was pretty confident. Last few hits were going to be in there. Was not prepared to deal with that last projectile. But the projectile, when all 3 are together, you can see it very clearly is just moving horizontally across. But when you kill 2 of the clouds, the remaining cloud, the pattern that it moves becomes not quite so clear. It looks like it's doing a really complicated pattern that can be hard to read, so sometimes you shoot those clouds to make it easier to dodge, but it then makes the pattern kind of harder to read afterwards. Armando had that nice, though, like knew the cloud was gonna sort of sweep down and then sweep out of his way. So using the super to stay in the air long to dodge it was very sweet. Nice little move. Unfortunately, was not enough to save him. Back to the start of this fight here, as Asahaka and Toru are two leaders, as they have for most of the race. Stay that way, dealing with this bird here. It's been a great fight for Asahaka, just looking to close it out, and has one extra hit point if they need it, which they might. Okay, got it.
Very nice. Just letting the PBs of both those players, because Asahaka is doing fantastic. His PB is 18 minutes and 43 seconds, so sub 19 is a crazy good time on that category. It's very, very clean. It's worth 200 points, and that's getting close to 19 minutes is easy enough. Getting sub 19 minutes in races is going to be incredibly tough, and like, just because you want to be safer sometime and you are not going to take as much risk. Sadly, Berimondo here playing it risky lost about a minute and a half, which is like insane if he wants to stay on that top four of that tournament.
Yeah, this is one of those situations that only really pops up in these sorts of competitive formats where you might make different decisions or change the way that you play based off of how things have gone before, or how you think things might go in the future. If Berimondo thinks I really need to score more points here in Cuphead race if I want to have a shot, whatever his goal is, 1 to top 5, whatever, he might a lot of time now. I need to go for everything, right? Whereas someone who is maybe sitting pretty at number 1, which I don't think is the case here today, might be comfortable not going with the riskier stuff, and just doing some safer stuff and score consistent points. Not safe enough for Toru. Asahaka is going to off the dragon and move on. Toru is going to have to start here from the beginning of this fight. So these two have been almost neck and neck with each other throughout the entire race so far, but finally some disparity between these players.
Toru Asahaka did have a crazy good fight against the Green Matchstick. He on the second phase, he barely got a couple of flamey dude running off his tongues. So that was like, he did a lot of damage on the first phase, and that was like a lot of time save compared to anyone on screen we can see right now. And yeah, that gives him like a good lead starting. You can start again going for all your bees and wasp puns as you done earlier. Those were pretty great, but yeah, Rimmer or Onibi should not be much of a problem here, compared to the Grim Matchstick at least.
Yeah, there's these projectiles that kind of follow you around a little bit are troublesome, and it's a little unclear when they stop following you around, so you can stop worrying about dodging and getting out of their way, and you can be sure that they're just gonna carry on off screen. And it looks like Asahaka has a pretty good understanding of that. Was way up in the middle of the screen to meet the boss, and finished off with a 49. Is not showing any signs of slowing down here.
Yeah, didn't die so far. Very good, clean execution on all those bosses. We are at the second to last boss. The Sally stage play once again. Dramatic play where you just beat up the actress for some reason. I didn't quite follow the story behind, but if you put it that way, it's pretty weird.
You're gambling, and you get into debt with the devil himself, and he says that if you do some work for me, you've got some contracts I have out on school, then I'll wipe away the debt. So this is you going after people who are in debt with the devil and collecting basically their souls, I think. So it's pretty dark, which is kind of in line with the aesthetic too. Cartoons back then didn't pull any punches, and I mean, I guess this last form of Sally here fits pretty well too. You got some Final Fantasy boss, one-winged angel Kefka coming down from the top of the tower, looking finale. It's a shame this isn't the finale though. There is still the Doom Train, I guess. Actually, another totally Final Fantasy thing. Though I guess these are pretty fair concepts to have in a video game. In an angel that comes down and a ghostly train. I wonder if there's any legends about ghost trains that these things are drawn or something. Anyway,
those fit perfectly the aesthetics at least, and that's probably the best thing about that speedrun. It's like it's so easy to watch because everything is well designed and visually appealing, so you understand exactly what's going to happen to the our hero here, Cuphead, if he doesn't dodge certain projectiles or just get crushed by those skeleton hands right here. Like it's a good speedrun in that aspect, and yeah, I'm very happy to see that Cuphead in the UD is going to be fairly fun to watch later on between like Castlevania and Shovel Knight having like some different aesthetics. Is going to be pretty cool. Second phase and last phase, sorry, of the train here. The Phantom Express, and he's already done. Asahaka playing very risky, and it works well for him. He's going to sign a crazy time that's going to be like 1850 or something like that. Very, very close to his PB actually. And those 200 points are going to mean a lot if he wants to stay in first place. So very, very nice tournament so far. Bermundo and Silent de Mars very close to each other, but Silent de Mars little mistake here switching gears.
I'm kind of curious what this one time actually is going to be. Yep. 1841.
1841. That's 2 seconds. 2 second PB for Asahaka. Very, very nicely done. So yeah, crazy time for a crazy race. That's 202 or 203 points. It's going to mean a lot in that tournament because it's going to bring him to 558 points, which is going like to be unbeatable, except like for very, very good Spectrable from someone and a very bad Spectrable from Asahaka. But Asahaka has the double advantage here that he has some time to re-practice and get warmed up again on Spectrable. So yeah, we'll see how that goes for him.
No, that's true. That's something I didn't consider. But the faster you finish, the faster you can get ready for the next game. So a bit of a reward, I guess, for the players who do go fast. We've got simultaneous skeleton trains here on all four corners of the screen. Pretty nice to see. Then we subbed in Zof here in the top left. Between these four, I'm not quite sure who exactly. All right, we got Barramundo.
Oh, that's
Zof and Toru in sync, Salient as well. All three in sync, moving into the final phase here. Pretty cool.
Silent de Mars using his regular super, while Zof and Toru using their Spreadshot super, and it worked pretty well for Toru, and Zof. They both should be finishing up the last phase pretty quickly. I don't know. Yeah, knockouts on both sides almost at the same time. Silent de Mars almost done also, so those are very good time overall, like about like 20 to 21 minutes. But yeah, it's like that's 2 minutes away from Asahaka, which signed a crazy time. And probably like, yeah, he's first on that race. No one could catch up with him.
No, I'm not surprised. On the leaderboard, that PB would still put Asahaka in 5th. It means that, you know, only 4 people have ever finished it faster than Asahaka did there, of the players competing today, of course. So yeah, totally not surprised to see number 1. with a bullet there from Asahaka. We've got finishes now from all those players on stream, so we're going to go ahead and get as many of them switched out as quick as we can. We got no good names, and their lovely stream quality in the top right. Pipico, just in time to see them finish here in the bottom left. Just a short stroll.
Oh, Explode Your Ear, sadly, is pretty far back. He's one of the best runners on both game. Like, if you add their score up, he's fourth in the overall UD leaderboard. He has like his PB on Cuphead is 2018, and his PB on Spectrable is 1046. His only weakness on the UD6 leaderboard is Castlevania Eye of Sorrow. But yeah, bad beat for him today, I feel, on Cuphead, and has to catch up. He is currently on the 12th position on the leaderboard, and yeah, is maybe going to have like some hard time to catch up.
Yep, the I mean, this tournament is just for fun, but it is pretty indicative of what the UD will end up looking like when you finally do get to the full in-game competitive tournaments that really count towards going towards the grand final. And it is at times like this you really need to be able to perform, and less so in putting up those good times on the leaderboard throughout the season. Generally, I find there's a pretty strong correlation, though, between the players who are able to put up the times on the leaderboard and able to, do well in the races. Generally, it turns out in things that, more practice means better. But
yeah,
at the same time, there's something to be said for being able to play under pressure like this.
Yeah, I totally agree, because myself, I cannot play under pressure at all. That's why we put up all those fun tournaments, so the players can actually are used to that kind of setup. Even though it's just for fun, it's a good way to practice that. But yeah, sometimes racing and having like an actual thing to gain or lose can get under your skull, and you have to be able to remember exactly how to handle the pressure when the actual tournaments are going to start. So just a good time to have fun. Cedric is using the roundabout weapon, which is not too much slower and is actually way safer on a lot of bosses. Oh, that was a mistake though. Careful not to die.
Okay.
Playing it very risky here.
Yeah, that was
nice.
If the iframes held out, and they did, Selfrec was going to be right in position with the platform on the left. But if the iframes did not hold out, he had basically sentenced himself to a lightning death there. So whether it was a calculated risk or a panic maneuver or what, it works out. Selric just barely finishes off the boss there. Explode is done with phase 2. Is going to be moving on to the final. Kerpuik, who we saw had a lot of troubles with Cuphead in the first race, seems to be doing better, but is not going to be doing well enough, I think, to hold on to the top position. I mean, certainly not the top position. They've dropped down to I think 12th now, but is going to come back on Spectre Ball for sure. Was on Spectre Ball, very likely going to gain some ground there, but is it going to be enough now? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Kerpuik was first on Spectrable, but it's not going to be anything good enough to catch with Asahaka, for example, which did fantastic on Cuphead. And I would, if you asked me honestly before the tournament started, I would have said that Spectrable was going to weigh way more than Cuphead. And it's actually the other way around, just two good Cuphead and you are set up. I feel like it's crazy.
Yeah, this is it's those deaths. I didn't realize just how close you are to death a lot of the time in these fights, and just having to restart. You don't get to go back to the last phase you were on, all the way back to the start of so a late death like we saw from Puig earlier, just now, phase 3 of this train, is such a big time loss that having the consistency to avoid those deaths, while also keeping up the pressure on in terms of the strats you're using. Right, you're using the spread and going for those supers. You don't need to go all out like that, but you do need to not be quite playing it as safe as maybe VCVGM was trying there. He's trying to keep their distance on these clouds. You could certainly avoid some deaths playing very safe, but the minor time losses are going to add up to be probably just as much as a death or two if you play too safe. So there's a ton of time to be saved in Cuphead, more than you thought and I thought, and maybe the players as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's one easy game to get into, and probably one of the trickiest game to race we've seen so far, I'd say, because in Castlevania or in Shovel Knight, if your PB is at, I don't know, 50 minutes, you are going to get a time around like 50 to 53 minutes maybe. In Cuphead, 2 or 3 deaths and you are going to lose like 4 to 5 minutes in a 20-minute long game. It's just a lot. So you gotta play safe, but if you play safe, that's all your learning going to waste, and it's tough. It's a tough balance, and I would recommend to race Cuphead if you were to do the final tournaments of the UD. Sadly, FSVGM dying here. Big shout out to him because he's one of the moderator, and he does a lot for testvideo.org, so I know he verifies and uploads videos for them, and he's being good for that community. So it's I love Tassis personally, and it's pretty good, pretty fine runner, which takes a lot of hits on that first phase, and chooses to restart, and understandable.
It's interesting to see the crossover, the tool-assisted runners and the regular speedrunners. Certainly, you need a certain mindset in order to do both, I think. But I really enjoy seeing people I recognize as speedrunners see their names pop up as author tool-assisted runs, or vice versa. And I really like when the two communities end up sort of intersecting. One thing discovers a trick or strat that the other uses, and sometimes the tool-assisted run discovers something and people go, oh, well, we can't do that though, that's a tool-assisted thing. All it takes is one person to put in the time and the dedication, and suddenly the task strat becomes it gets, maybe it keeps its name because we like to give names to things, but it gets a new name. It's not the task strat anymore. People are doing it.
Yeah,
always fun to see.
That's a story of a lot of NES and SNES games. So a lot of runners on the Mega Man community, Ninja Gaiden community, Mario obviously are just like taking a lot of new strats from Tassis. And even in Castlevania Eye of Sorrow, a couple of years ago, the category we are doing in the UD6 didn't exist because it was relying heavily on luck, and now it's just about RNG manipulation, which is like something that comes from the Tassis. So yeah, it's always interesting, but it is time to end that Cuphead race. Sadly, the cutoff point is at 29 minutes in-game time. So congrats to all the runners that did beat the game in time, because a couple of deaths and sadly you're out.
Yeah, it can be a little mean sometimes with the cutoffs on these games, but we do need to try to keep some semblance of a schedule going, and that can be motivation too. The 200 point mark is where a lot of the top players are aiming for, but these are people who've been, they've had a lot of practice speedrunning games, speedrunning different games, learning to speedrun games very quickly, and those all matter a lot in a situation like this. I think I think lots of people um, can get there and compete with these guys, but it takes time. You need to you might think, well, he hasn't played this game before and I haven't played this game before, so aren't we on the same playing field? But your ability to learn something quickly and pick it up quickly is something that you can develop simply by learning and playing a whole different games. So it takes time, but you can certainly get there. A lot of our players have already got there, as we can see on this leaderboard. Asahaka remains firmly in first place with a absolutely disgusting Cuphead time, 203 points. A couple people pretty close there, a couple 198s from Janth and Skunkoff. Janth now in the top 10 with a fairly weak but barely over the line on the 100-point for Spectraball. Skunkoff also was not able to finish time. And I guess I interrupted myself, but getting over that 100-point barrier as opposed to the 200-point barrier can be a strong motivation for players as well. So
yeah,
we'll see if maybe that drives those two guys to put more time into Spectraball and be ready for the next time the Spectraball tournament rolls around. Certainly, they're probably not going to be ready for the race coming up at just a moment.
Except maybe if they had like a very bad death or something terrible happened and they are just like barely their PBs, maybe at 120 and they barely didn't make it. I don't know. But yeah, I see some familiar names getting on the top places. Devil Tifa getting back to the second place, but he has like about 30 points, 26 points to make compared to Hasaka, and that's going to be tough because Spectraball, if it goes well for both players, that's a no-go. You never are going to gain about a minute and a half on any other runners. Of course, mistakes can be made, and Toru and Zoff are very close behind Barramundo, Salindermars also. There's a little 20 points gap between the 6th and the 7th place. But yeah, very, very tough fight for a lot of those runners. And once again, Spectraball did way more than I expected actually on that tournament. I was really, really certain that Spectraball was going to be the big hit for a lot of players.
Well, it was for some, certainly. But yeah, I think it's Cuphead that's been defining our two-game race series. But we've seen two Cuphead races, so I think we have a clearer picture of Cuphead. Maybe maybe a bit of a fluke. I feel like with some players, though, you do get a pretty good idea of the pattern of things. But I still think it's a bit of a wild card here. Like you said, there could have been some deaths in race number 1. And for race number 2, on the one hand, you played it earlier today, so you're a little more familiar with it. But on the other hand, you just did 2 races of Cuphead. So, how into the game are you really? So it will be interesting. I have no idea how this race is going to play out, to be honest.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. For some players, it's getting late. You've just done like 3 races. You gotta play Spectraball again. It's very short, it's very intense. For some other runner, it's going to be very easy to come back, to pick up another game. So I feel like you've played Spectraball, you remember everything. It's fresh in your memory. So yeah, let's see how well it goes for Cuphead. The runners are getting ready just at the start of the first level. Once again, double jump, no glitch allowed. And right after this race, in 15 minutes, we are going to announce the 6th game. I'm very excited for it. It's going to be a very interesting game. I've never played it, so I'm very interested in going to see how that will play out during the next week. And let's go. Spectraball, double jumping. First level is one of the hardest because it's fairly open, so you want to keep your speed and your momentum going as well as you always can, and sometimes that can be tricky. Asahaka has to play safe if he doesn't want to give Devil Tifa the advantage. Toru and Zoff can catch up if they get crazy good times. Devil Tifa and Asahaka right at the same spot. Zoff in the lead. Once again, it's not the first level where it's all going to play, but you're gonna lose some fair amount of time just right here.
Yeah, Devil Tifa was able to preserve momentum through those skips. It's one thing to execute on the skip, it's another thing to flow from one skip to the other. That's kind of what elevates you to the next level in a game like this, and Devil Tifa had a really nice sequence to start off this level. Asahaka got tripped up a little bit, had to wait for a platform, but I was doing well, and Zoff has already done the level just a little bit ahead of Devil Tifa.
Ooh, Asahaka missed the spring here. Yeah, once again, as you said, just going fast between one jump to the other is what's tough about that game. It's fairly easy to learn in that regard, because every single jump you are going to nail on the, like, I don't know, 5th try, 10th try, and you are going to be able to follow along with the wildcard route pretty easily. But just doing everything fast and going fast between one spot to the other is fairly tricky.
Zoff and Devil Tifa both conquering the pyramid pretty smoothly. Again, they make that look a lot easier. It is getting just enough height off the rebound, off the wall, and using the double jump to get just enough to edge over that corner. Asahaka as well, getting that smoothly as both Devil Tifa and Zoff move into the volcano here.
Oh, Toru did a pretty major mistake here, I'd say. He failed on that that boost you were talking about just earlier, and chose to reset to checkpoint, but he never hit the checkpoint, so he had to restart the entire level. He could have gone with a safer strat and just go all the way around, but once again, in the UD, it's pretty hard to practice fast and well all the faster strats, so practicing on the backup strat can be complicated to fit into your schedule, so yeah, that's what we're all going to see some of the time.
Right, it's is it worth my time to be ready for if things go wrong, or would it be better to just get better at making sure things don't go wrong in the first place? And certainly I think at some point it becomes worth it to be prepared for those situations, but this early on, I feel like it's pretty reasonable to learn the way it's supposed to go and then best to make it go that way. Nice sequence here from Tifa, skipping over the blocks here in ice stage, and
sadly failing here, being right back with Asahaka, letting Zoff take the lead. Devil Tifa is one of those runners that get way better when he has some when he doesn't have the lead. Catching back up is one of his special move, like he's far behind and just pull off the crazy PB he needs to take the lead. Sadly, dying there put him far behind, and he has to do all those jump again, and Asahaka is already like about 10 seconds in the lead, starting the 5th level first, followed by Zoff very closely.
Yeah, Zoff had a really nice jump straight to the exit, whereas Devil Tifa, maybe that's the route that they always take, or did that this isn't going well, going to take things a little safer, took the long way around. Took a weird bounce there, but thankfully the skip is pretty generous, so but is going to get to the checkpoint from underneath. Good enough. And let's take a look at them as they go for this really tricky sequence here where you use the fans to carry your momentum. Didn't quite work out, but the nice bounce there is going to get onto the boost pad and can carry on from there.
And Asahaka taking the long way, getting passed by both Zoff and Devil Tifa. Toru is half of the level behind. That's not much in Spectrable, it's about like 20 to 30 seconds. The Sky Ruins can take quite long to complete, but there are a lot of checkpoints all the time, so there is like no punitive death here. You just have to go as fast as you can, and sometimes you will fall down. Deltifa right ahead of Asaka in that vertical elevator with no floor, moving, just using the wind. The power of the wind is very strong in that in this game.
Yeah, you don't really get a good sense for how heavy this ball is, especially with the way it can double jump. So I wonder how strong is that wind to get this ball moving.
You don't bounce much, and when you hit the ground, it goes clunk. So I feel like it's a pretty heavy ball. But yeah, with the double jump and all the weird collisions happening, you can go pretty quickly. Devil Tifa failing that jump again. That cost a lot of time. Let's see if Asahaka gets it first try, but Zoff is right behind all those three runners, right at the same spot. Asahaka getting the jump, Devil Tifa overshooting it, and he has to go with the backup right here. Getting it very fast though.
Asahaka doing the sequence off the springs there. Toru just entering the mountain. Again, still about half a level behind. And looks like Zof still is just barely didn't get up that ledge there. The double jump a little bit to charge, so sometimes if it's required for something and you don't quite get it, you do have to wait just a little bit for it to recharge, particularly in the pyramids level, the first sequences where you need those double jumps. There's a bit of waiting there.
Yeah, and
patience.
It's about like 3 seconds, and that's fairly important actually. Some routes nowadays are getting excluded because you need too many of those double jumps, and if you count the times you have to wait, it's too much for speedrun to be viable, to be faster than the current route. So it's not too bad, and if you get used to it, it's okay. You don't wait too much for it, but knowing exactly when it's going to recharge and go jumping before it's actually fully charged can be pretty scary actually.
Asahaka setting up for this jump here. Nothing too scary there. We did see players fall off this bridge earlier, but not going to be a problem. Tifa behind. And now we're getting to some of the big jumps here.
Yeah, very scary, but I feel like the most scary part is not like undershotting it, it's overshotting. And Devil Tifa failing actually right before. Thankfully there is a checkpoint right here, but that's once again, sometimes it doesn't want to lose because Asahaka isn't already in the lead and starting the final level. But everything can go wrong in that level because there is that one final skip that can cost a lot of time.
Yeah, for sure. And even if you get like partial skip, you might lose to some of the full skip. And if you want to get crazy, you can even the tower and just go straight for the narrow part. That in a race, but even more potential for big time gains in this level. For now, Asahaka using the double jump to really get inside this speed booster loop here. Nice job.
That was close. You call the final nice air control. You call the final skip potential time gain. I call it a potential time loss if you go for it because everything is so risky. Okay, let's go Asahaka. Maybe a bit too low, but he is going to go with it anyway, and that's actually not too bad. He has to clear that jump using that little crate here. Yep, and he's going to hit the checkpoint. That's actually a very, very good time. He had a 11:53 earlier, and he's going maybe to get sub 10 right here if he clears the landing.
Get there.
Ooh, using his double jump
double
just
jump.
to slow him down, and yeah, very very good time, about 10 minutes. That's 200 points, and he's going to be the clear winner, I feel, of that fun tournament. And yeah, crazy times overall, crazy Cuphead and crazy Spectrable right at the end, and that's going to be good enough for him. Like, that was not just good enough, that was very good actually.
Yeah, Asahaka got to first place off of the back of, a solid Super Ball and then fantastic Cuphead. And so we were thinking, like, solid Spectre Ball, and we're going to have a really close finish between some of these other people. But then Asahaka also had a fantastic Spectre Ball, came way in over the top here. Is going to be our first place finisher. We'll get a look at the leaderboard after the final results. But
that's 1 minute and 5 seconds PB for Asahaka. So yeah, crazy good time for him. He's going to have like that double-edged sword on both game on his player card, like having the same PB race and PB grind. That's going to be crazy for him.
And they're both 200, aren't they?
Yeah, so
maxed out. Don't play those games anymore. They're done.
I'm good to go. Well, when we have announced the 10 games, we are going, when the first tournament of July starts, we are going to announce the next step, the arrow you can put on top of your bar, for those who wants to grind a lot of more for their player cards. So it's going to be fun to see how well it goes for those who wants their maxed out player card with all the features they can get. Some players did get already their Silver Lightning, which corresponds to 4 games at over 200 points. So
Silver Lightning, I just like the sound of it.
Well, if you go look at the Melwest player card, I can link it in chat. You got like those empty slots, and you got one that is filled with silver, which looks pretty cool. And yeah,
look at that.
Yeah, it still has to unlock gold on those three badges. No one knows. No one has figured out yet how to get the second and the third one. So we'll see how that goes for the players that wants to grind achievements, I guess. Airstrom finishing that level, he got a pretty tough time on that tower climb at the end, but getting a sub 13 is pretty good. Cute Shadow got to the final level. You can skip all that part, but the skip is crazy, and I've seen no one get it on those races, so yeah, you have to be precise. Those blue particle effects actually push you away from the walls, so you have to compensate for that.
Yeah, in some ways it makes this easier, just doing a straight shot the way that Cute Shadow did there. It was started off trying to do it legit, and then towards the end said, no, I'm just going to go for the fast strat. Yeah. Just because those pushers are so annoying.
Yeah, it can go wrong. Let's see how that boost goes, though. You want to escape. He escapes too early there. You want to take the second boost and then escape. But those ledges on the side of that blue looping can be pretty tough to clear, and that's a very good shot right under the antenna.
Oh man, had the double jump, but like that would have sent you flying if you had used it at the wrong time. So nice recovery. Nice.
He chose to go to the checkpoint. Understandable. He could have cleared the jump and get to that railing right away, but that would have been risky if he was not confident in his last shot at the end here. Using the double jump makes it fairly safer, but
with the frame rate and the way it's just a floating platform in space, it was pretty hard to tell where, how he was moving his camera and where exactly he was in relative to this thing. But
even
when you see the underside of it, it's probably not good.
Yeah, even in game, very hard to have good depth perception, especially there. Like the game does not give you a good sense of your speed nor of your of where are the objects. And yeah, that's it for Spectrable, and I feel like the leaderboard is going to be very interesting. Of course, Asahika is going to end up in first place because he was first before Spectrable, and he got first compared to the top 4, so that's going to be tough to clear out, even for Tifa, who had a very good lead on all those tournaments we did before, but sadly it's pretty tough to be in first place all the time.
So Asahaka only kind of picked up the UD starting with perhaps a story about my uncle, but only has times for Cuphead and Spectre Ball, and then a fairly beginner time for a story about my uncle. None for Shovel Knight or Aria. So I don't know, maybe you know that, is this someone who joined late, got into it, and is doing well, or what? Because they totally killed it today.
So we met during UD4, I guess it was. He's been with us for a long time, but I don't think he's ever done the 10 games. Let me check. The past seasons we have everything about every runner. But yeah, Asahika is about like 7 to 8 games per season, but at very good level. He is used to the 190 and above scores, but yeah, he picks up whatever he wants, and sometimes he scores on some smaller tournaments. He can join in. I hope he'll do the full 10 games, because what he showed today was spectacular actually on both Cuphead and Spectrable, being able to pull off PBs, actually very good PBs in during a tournament is no small feat. It's you have to be consistent, don't be too scared, no pressure, play relax and well, and it went very well for him.
Yeah, I agree. I was curious, because I was like, I don't remember seeing Asahaka in the previous races for UD, so I went to look into it a little bit. It was a fairly dominant performance today. I guess we'll see just how far apart everyone is when we get the final results in and take a look at the leaderboard in just a moment, I'm sure. But oh, and yes, right on time.
Right on time.
Bam.
So
look at that.
Yeah, crazy times. Asahika pulling up the 200 points and over on both races. Cuphead and Spectrable getting a final score of 759. Yeah, like that's 34 points ahead of Devil Tifa, which is in second place. Zoff, Cylinder Mars, and Toru, which we followed sometimes, but all three at the third place with 715 points. Very, very good times overall. Cylinder Mars getting better, Spectrable and Zoff and Toru getting better Cupheads. But yeah, very good times. The final Spectrable went way, way better than the first race on Spectrable for all over the board. Like a lot of people just improved, and yeah, as we said, like Huge Shadow did not finish on the first race because Spectrable, and did get 3 points on the second time. Like overall, it went better, and that's very, very nice to see. Axodo got 126 on the first Spectrable race and 196 on the second one. So once again, just practicing a bit more, and you'll be there all the time.
Yeah, another big difference. Psychos 115 on the first race. He won the second race with a 205. And something in Cuphead actually was a 0 in the first race of Head, and a very, very good 188 in the second. So I feel like if we were to just chop off 2 races and then do more races, Psychos would be up there with those times. Just look at those 2 times.
Yeah. Very, very good good score overall for a lot of runners. Once again, we had 33 registered runners, and a lot of the runners went either just for one game or for both of them, but at low level. But we had like over 20 runners, very good at both of them, and that's crazy because once again they've only had 2 weeks to practice. A lot of the runners took the past weekend off just to be able to come to the event we set up live in France, and it was, yeah, it's impressive, and I hope we see more of those clutch finish like Toruzov and Silent Mars did in the end later this season, because it's very nice to see. And obviously when we are going to do like 10 games in a row, seeing those runners very close, trading back and forth with different games depending on what they like better, is going to be very interesting to follow along.
Yeah, we had the previous season had some pretty some games that kind of caused a divide that made for some really fun swings back and forth, and it looks like, you know, just what we saw with just 2 games in Spectra Ball and Cup, the second time I've done that. These 2 games, I mean, I guess if you want to give them a cute name for pairing them together, like a Benifer, then you would call them Spectra Head here today. We saw, you know, different players doing very well in one, not so good in the other. And, that was that's going to be really interesting when we get into 10 different games. Generally, the people who are very good at learning and are very well-rounded will start to come to the top. But it's going to be interesting to see if the people who are kind of specialists in one game or another, if they can sort of keep up on the other games and challenge those really well-rounded guys for the top spots.
Next game, let's go. Donkey Kong Country is a game that so many runners asked us to put on a UD lineup. Like, a lot of runners really enjoy that that game. I've never played Donkey Kong Country. My first Donkey Kong game I played is Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. So way later. What's your experience with the franchise?
As a kid, I played KC3 at a friend's house, and then at some point somewhere I also played 2. Donkey Kong Country was one I went back to when I discovered the magic of emulators at some point in middle school to high school, and began to play all the SNES games that I didn't get a chance to play, because I was a Genesis kid growing up. I definitely never got way into finding all of the secrets and stuff. There's some in those Donkey Kong Country games. 2 is probably my favorite of the bunch, but being a speedrunner, you come across the Donkey Kong Country series quite a bit. It's attracted a lot of speedrunners over the years. It has a ton of tricks and lineage, so there's a lot for people to learn. But I feel like there's probably also already some really good tutorials out there that will help a lot with learning a new game. And it will create some interesting situations as well in races, because if you get hit, if you lose Diddy, you can find yourself in a very different situation than what you're used to. So could be it could be really interesting to see how that plays out in a race. And I think it's going to be good. Yeah, I really like this as a pick.
It's a very interesting game, as you said. Like in races, if you lose Diddy, you play that Donkey Kong, and it's slower, and you're not used to him. If you want to play as fast as possible, you are going to intentionally lose Donkey Kong and play only as Diddy, but you don't have that backup. HP management, lives management are going to matter a lot. You need like very good execution, good knowledge on the game. Where are the tricks? Where are the glitches? Everything is allowed. You have to beat all stages. Beating a stage means getting to the exit, but you don't have to get to the entrance of that stage. So you can do a lot of crazy stuff in Donkey Kong Country, and that's going to be very interesting to see what tricks are worth it, what trick not that much, what can you do in races that you are attempting in PB, and what do you want to help a little bit off on. Like it's pretty interesting, and we are going to see what's going to happen on all those races, all those events. We are going to set up a little blind race tomorrow. I'm going to play through Donkey Kong Country. I've never played through the game, and I'm going to spoil myself all the skips because there are a lot of hidden barrels and a lot of stuff you have to know. And those devs didn't like to play through the game over and over again, and kept putting on secret exit everywhere. And I don't know how much of the game we are actually going to see in an all stage speedrun, but I feel like it's going to be less than 20% of the game.
Yeah, the Donkey Kong Country 1 has some interesting stuff in terms of stages. I mean, they all have eventually found some pretty broken stuff. I'm a little hazier on 3, but all of them have ways to end stages quicker than they're supposed to, or you know, trick the game into putting you into places you shouldn't be, basically. A lot of tricks in nature. So it could be a very technical, sort of trick-oriented sort of thing that is thrown at these players, rather than a more traditional platformer. Certainly plenty of that. And then even with the platforming, there's tricks there where, like we saw in the video, Diddy was just kind of cartwheeling through space. That's a really fun trick, very precise, that I don't know if people are going to go for it in races. I don't think they will, but that's on the table, right? There's a lot of fun stuff here.
Yeah, it's an incredible game. It's one of those games where I know I'm going to be frustrated, because if you try to go too fast, you die, and if you take your time, it's way too easy, so you have to get the correct pace, and it's not pace for me. I feel all the time when I play like through Donkey Kong Country Returns and Tropical Freeze, I had difficulties to hold on like pressing the just roll button and go all the way in, but once you start learning those speedruns, it gets super smooth, it flows very well. There is a super intense, fully detailed, I don't know, a complete library on all the tricks and stuff you can learn on Donkey Kong Country, so I feel like it's going to be pretty easy to learn. There's ton of reference on everything on in Donkey Kong Country. If you want to learn anything you see, there is like a trick, a video, a written tutorial. You have like 10 backups, and there's like a big Discord. You can ask anything you want. And so, like, if you want to do those crazy cartwheels and stuff, either it's task only, or you are able to learn it pretty easily. So I'm very excited to play through the game. I'm very excited to see what's going to happen in races. I'm pretty excited to finally be able to understand what the hell is going on in Donkey Kong Country Return, because that speedrun is crazy.
Yeah, country speedruns, like you said, you hit on something I think is really important, is that when you are going fast in this game and getting that sense of flow from one thing to the other, the game really comes into its own, I think. And playing through casually, I don't think you're ever going to really find that very much. I think you're going to be taking it one jump at a time. So this is one of those games where I think you can get an extra special amount of enjoyment out of it from speedrunning compared to just playing it. So honestly, I think just diving in straight into the speedrun is totally valid. And
tough.
I'm tough, sure, but I'm also looking forward to it though. It's in the backlog now. I've got 3 UD games that I need to get going, and I do need to think about Genesis games for a little bit longer too as well.
Yeah, because right after this on Speed Gaming, we have that Sega Genesis tournament, collection tournament you are hosting. It's a crazy multi-game event set up just for the release of that collection. It's going to be very interesting. What game did you pick?
As in...
from that collection you are playing today. I don't remember the list. I've seen like Sonic and stuff, obviously.
Yeah, we're doing 3 games each day. So yesterday we did Sonic, Sonic 1, Gunstar Heroes, maybe the best Genesis game, flat out, straight out, and Columns for a puzzle game. And today we are going to be doing a pretty different set of games. We've got Vector Man, Streets of Rage 2,
that I know,
and Revenge of Shinobi. And that is it's a weird one. The bosses all have I think after the second boss, every boss is basically a copyright infringement.
Oh, nice.
Has been changed in some form or another for the version that they're playing on. So but it is a super hard game. I've heard talk of even the top players being like, I haven't finished the goal yet. I couldn't do it.
Nice.
So I'm really worried we made it too hard on our players. It's gonna be so guys who have only spent a short amount of time learn some games very similar to like we've seen on UD. But it's actually, I think it's more content per given that these guys had to learn. So it's punishing. And there's some prize money on the line. Sega donated 23. I said the word donated again, but that's not really the right word, is it? They've put up a prize pool of $2,300, $1,000 for first, and then $600, $400 for second, third, and then there's a bonus event on Tuesday for mirror mode where players are going to be competing doing like it just flips the screen left, right.
Nice.
So that's going to be really weird. Winner of that's going to get $300, and they also gave out the Steam keys for all the players to play on the collection version. So some pretty cool stuff, some interesting stuff. We're going to be doing day 2, like I said, of those 3 games: Streets of Rage 2, Shinobi, and Vector Man. Tomorrow we're going to be doing all 6 games again. Another like sort of last chance to get times on the board. Players with the best times will advance to the finals, where they'll play Rystar,
nice. Sonic
the Hedgehog 2, and Golden Axe. We had to represent Golden Axe on there. All 3 are in the collection. It's a beat 'em up. It's got a lot of cool spin strats, where mostly you send guys into pits a lot. But it should be good. It should be really interesting. I need to get some water to.
Yeah, because like commentating the 2 back to back is pretty intense.
Yeah, but if you liked what you saw in UD, it should be pretty similar, and I'm looking forward to it. You kind of glossed over the event that you guys did though, that I'm a little curious.
Yeah.
How that went.
Okay, so in France we have that event called the Stunfest. It's a huge festival in France, about like 50k visitors during like the 3 days, and we set up a big scene for showing off speedrunning and races. So we had like 300 seats that were full all 3 days, and we did about like 28 game back to back, just showcasing a lot of different runners. All games picked from the precedent UDs. So. And plus we had like Ocarina of Time and Super Metroidvania that we never showcased in UDs, but it was very fun. We had like a little team tourney set up just to have like a sense of who's winning and what not, but it was pretty cool. But it was all in French, and I'd love to be able to set that up for a more diverse audience, but when you are live and just sitting in front of everyone and having to set up everything, it was crazy. In France. it was crazy, but yeah, it was a good experience getting to show some speedrun to some people that never seen a game finished quickly. That was pretty cool, and yeah, I hope we can do that again some days. The next live event we are doing, like we plan to do, is the grand finale for the UD6. It's going to be in October, and it's going to be pretty cool, and it's going to be streamed on both Speed Gaming and in French on Ultime Decathlon, so it's going to be great.
It sure will. I think we're all done here. We've wrapped up our tournament. Asahaka totally knocked it out of the park. 5 points ahead of second place. We've announced game number Donkey Kong. The really gung ho people have the game. They're already googling the tutorials and whatnot.
Let me check if some people. Oh no one yet is streaming it. Like, some people are having dinner, I guess, before diving in. But yeah, it's going to be a crazy week of learning and streaming Donkey Kong for a lot of speedrunners from the UD. Have a very good event on with the Sega Genesis. Everyone, stay around for that, and tomorrow we have the first race on Donkey Kong Country, just to talk a little bit about the game. On Thursday we're going to have the first community race with everyone that have put about 5 days of learning, so it's going to be fun. And on Saturday, next Saturday, we have the same thing, Donkey Kong Country, 2 races back to back, and plus announcing the 7th game, so it's going to be pretty cool. Have a good one.
Bye guys.